Evening, everyone, and thank you so much for bearing with us tonight through 3 demos. I know that you all came to hear Fred, as did I, so I will try to make this as brief and painless as possible. My name is Candace Klein, and I'm founder and CEO of SoMoLend, which stands for Social Mobile Local Lending. And before I explain what SoMoLend is, I'd like to survey the room quite quickly. First, how many of you in the room are entrepreneurs who are seeking capital? Just by show of hands. Okay, how many of you are investors, who are individual investors, angels who've invested in or plan to invest in companies in the future? I know I'm going to hit you up later. And how many of you represent banks or financial institutions who invest on a large scale? Okay, great. That's helpful to understand. So before I walk through the demo, I'll quite quickly just explain what the problem is that we're solving. And the first is that, no offense to the banker in the room, but banks aren't lending to small businesses. And my friends at KeyBank and Fifth Third, who are customers of ours, would agree with you, or would agree with me on that statement. Of the 27 million businesses in the United States who need access to capital, 23% never apply for fear of rejection. And of those who do apply, they're turned down 51% of the time. So we've got 20 million businesses in the U.S. who need money but can't get it. At the same time, individuals and corporations, they don't like their stock market returns anymore, and so they're investing their money themselves again, and they're investing locally. So these two problems have created the perfect storm and a brand new asset class in crowdfunding, or peer-to-peer lending, depending on what you call it, which on average is providing about a 10 to 12% interest rate return with less than a 2.5% default rate, so it's a relatively safe bet for the money. How many of you in the room have heard of crowdfunding at some point or another? Have you heard of Kickstarter or Lending Club or Funding Circle? I know Fred has, because he's invested in all of them. And so we've been following them for many, many years. And in fact, I represented Prosper Marketplace. I was their securities attorney when they were shut down by the SEC in 2008. And I learned what they did well and what they did poorly. And I've taken notes ever since then. And so this is a market that didn't even make any sense. No one paid attention to it even 3 years ago. Less than $500 million was transacted globally on online lending and investing. But last year, $1.5 billion was transacted just in donation and reward-based crowdfunding, and $837 million of that was transacted in the United States through Kickstarter and Indiegogo alone. And so what are we doing? We are patent pending with the first debt-based crowdfunding platform to take advantage of the Jobs Act. I actually helped to author the Jobs Act. 38 words in that piece of legislation are my words. And I now chair the industry task force that's meeting with the SEC and FINRA every single week to create the regulatory framework for this brand new industry and environment. So how does this work? SoMoLend has been live since May of this year. We've had several thousand small businesses and entrepreneurs sign up for debt-based capital on our platform. We've had about $25 million in requests, and we've lent about $5 million over the past couple of months. This is very tied into social media, which is interesting because you're not allowed to solicit yet if you're raising capital. And so I'll show you how this will look in about a month or two, but this part is live today. So many of our borrowers, our small businesses, raise capital on our site through hearing about a successful campaign on social media. Facebook is our #1 feeder program or social media site that brings people to SoMoLend. So Candace Peters owns a yoga studio called Hyde Park Body Boutique, and she sees online that her best friend Billy just raised money successfully on SoMoLend. She's taken to our platform. And here we walk her through a very simple and beginning user experience. So she'll say she's interested, she'd like to borrow money, so she signs up as a borrower, and she sets up a very basic account. We then do verify who she is, where a lot of people who are writing about crowdfunding say, fraud, 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 the sky is falling, grandma's going to lose her life savings. That actually isn't what happens. And in fact, in the other countries who've been doing crowdfunding, we've maintained 0% fraud in Australia and the UK, and less than a 1.7% default rate. We have better default rates than banks. And so what we do first is verify that Candace indeed does exist, and then she is taken to a page to begin setting up her account. For those of you who are entrepreneurs in the room, every month we do provide free capital in the form of grants to entrepreneurs who complete the process on our platform. So if for no other reason you want to log on to SoMoLend tonight to try to capture $1,000 to $5,000 in grant money, But we do ask for some very basic information about Hyde Park Body Boutique. This is publicly indexable information on Google. And so this becomes a profile that Candace may want to use for other purposes down the road. And so we do ask her some information about her business as well as herself. This helps us to verify that she indeed does exist. And then she sets up her account with us. She does upload video and photos. I will tell you that if you upload video, you're 114% more successful than if you don't. So I'd strongly encourage you, if you're going to do a crowdfunding campaign, to do that. But before she gives us any proprietary information about her business, she's able to set her privacy settings. So she can say, the whole world can see my LinkedIn profile, my Twitter page, my Facebook page, but when it gets to my business plan, my financial statements, my net worth, I only want banks seeing that. I don't necessarily want my competitors getting access to that information. Now let's say Candace's parents sign up tomorrow on our platform and they say, well, I want to invest in you, but before I do, I want to see that business plan of yours. She can provide one-off access, and I'll show you how that works later. But then we ask her to fill out all the same information that a bank would ask for. This is an SBA loan application. So yes, we do ask her for her business plan, for her Secretary of State documentation, for her employer identification number. We ask her to give us details about her business, how we can find her online. We ask her to tell us about who her competitors are and her competitive advantage, and we do ask her for high-level financials. The financials that we ask her to plug in, this is very much like TurboTax. It's a very simple initial form, and this helps us to populate current ratio, debt-to-income ratio, FICO, and other things. We do pull a criminal and credit background report on every owner who has 20% ownership or more in the company. And then we do ask them to upload financial statements. I can tell you that there is not a single borrower who signed up on our platform who has gotten any money without uploading their financial statements. And so this is definitely required. Now, before she can submit her loan application, she does need to sign our terms and conditions, letting everyone know that she understands that she's about to publish her information for the world to see. What we've learned is we have a 34-point underwriting algorithm that help us underwrite risk for default. And we're now weighing Clout Score more heavily than FICO Score. What we've learned is that our borrowers are very concerned about what the public thinks of them. And since the public is actively engaged in making loans on our platform, they're more likely to repay that loan if they think it's going to affect their public reputation. So this is a new way for small businesses to access capital. So she'll publish her loan request, and now we will show you what this looks like, what her loan application looks like from the investor's perspective, or the individual lender. Now, we have just become a broker-dealer, and as a result, we can allow friends and family and accredited investors to lend on our platform, and we've been doing so for the past several weeks. So if you're a lender signing on, you tell us if you're a bank, corporation, or individual, and then you set up an account with us. We do need to verify who you are, particularly if you're an individual, and do a suitability analysis of your investments. This is a back end showing how we do that. There's about a 5-minute survey that every investor must complete with us. And then you begin to set up your lending preferences. So you can tell us the industries that you care about, the risk profile that you're comfortable with, the geographies that you're interested in, broken down by city, zip code, or census tract, helps you meet CRA reporting requirements if you're a bank. And then we only take you to those borrowers that meet your very specific criteria. The person who signed on today, Emily, was Candace's friend. So the only person she can see is Candace. This is required by federal regulation. And so she can go into Candace's profile, see all that public information that's available on Google. She doesn't have access to the detailed loan application, so she has to request it. Candace then can provide access to her on a one-off basis. And then she can see all of the information that a bank would look at, including debt-to-income ratio, FICO score, and other pieces of information. This is the full application. She can also contact references. And so she says, okay, I'm in love with this business. I want to lend $93,000 for a 2-year time period for 6.5% interest. She's taken to the amortization schedule and the note. This is signed via e-signature. She sets up an account because we manage all payments via ACH processing through a partnership that we have with Fifth Third Bank. And the final step before Emily can make this loan offer is to complete a questionnaire, a quiz. We require that she actually reads the business plan. So we ask her 3 to 5 randomized questions about the business. with a link, a direct link to the answer in the business plan. This doesn't get us, this keeps us out of trouble with the SEC. So they have to complete all of these questions before making the loan offer. Candidates can accept that loan offer. We do a quick suitability analysis, and then it's signed via e-signature. Money is transferred via escrow, and the account is complete. This is the dashboard for Emily, the lender. She can now see any messaging back and forth between any potential borrowers. She can see the relative health of her portfolio, broken down by industry, so we can tell her, hey, Emily, stop investing in restaurants. It's not working out for you. And we can actually suggest other investments that would make her portfolio a bit healthier. And at any point in time, she can go into any one of her loans and see the full amortization schedule and payoff. And then she can tell the world about her successful loan on SoMoLend. So this is what we've done so far. We are live. We've lent about $5 million over the past 2 months to a couple hundred businesses. And we have KeyBank, Fifth Third, Cabbage, On Deck, and others lending on our platform to date. So at this point, I'm happy to answer any questions. Yes?
What happens if somebody breaches the amortization schedule, and what happens if the lender requests collateral?
So for every individual lender who's lending on our platform, and we have just under 1,000 individuals lending on our platform so far, they're signing unsecured notes. So what we will do in the event of default, we notify them on a real-time basis in the case of late payment. We issue a collection letter after 30 days of late payment, and we suggest a third-party collection agency. We do not manage the collection ourselves. The one thing we will allow is for all of the individual lenders to disclose their identity to one another in case they should choose to prosecute as a unit. Now, I will tell you that the banks who are lending on our platform are signing their own notes. So these are secured. The banks have priority. What we are doing is we're offering the bank a leveraged loan product. So they can essentially turn someone down, send them to us, come in later in the process after the borrower's proven liquidity by raising some money from friends and family, and still have first priority in the loan. So there's benefit to the bank. Other questions? Yes?
Is there usually a cross-default clause?
So we haven't had an event of default yet, but yes, there is in the terms and conditions a cross-default clause. Now, what I can tell you is we are 6 months old. We've been on about $5 million. We've had 0 late payments. So this is slightly academic so far, but I'm happy to discuss it with you in another 6 months or so. Yes?
There's no restriction on any states-wise, or you can go across the borderline?
So this must be done in the United States, and that's set actually by federal regulation to date.
To any states?
Any states. We're operating nationwide and have been since May of this year. Yes?
The average size of the debt loan?
So our average borrower is in 4 main industries: restaurant, retail, professional services, and health, beauty, fitness, so gyms and food trucks, those types of things. Our average loan request is about $75,000, and our average closed loan right now is about $50,000. The average interest rate return to lenders is 7 to 10% so far. Other questions? Yes?
What sort of verification are you doing to the people and financial, like what, beyond verifying, what are you verifying?
Sure. We have a partnership with a company called CrowdCheck. CrowdCheck is a due diligence company that meets all SEC and FINRA requirements on verification. So we actually, if they say they worked, if the owner says, I worked at this company, we actually pull the employment agreement. If they say I graduated from this college, we actually get the transcript information. It's not cheap. It certainly costs us quite a bit of money to do that. So we're looking at cheaper ways to do that going forward. But we verify every piece of data that's reported on the application. Yes?
Would you consider an FBI background check with a thumbprint card that's sent to the Bureau of Department of Justice?
I'd be happy to talk about that with you. We haven't done it yet, but we can certainly do it.
Morgan Stanley or Chase, you know what I'm saying, like they fingerprint you and...
I mean, we'd be happy to talk about that. If you have any leads for me, please let me know. I'd be happy to talk about it with you. I think, one more question? Okay.
Do you know what happened to the market? You said it was 500 million and it switched, it became a huge market overall. What happened?
Sure. Well, there was a tightening of traditional financial institutions. I'll tell you, KeyBank is one of our lenders, so I'm allowed to rip on them a little bit because they're my friends. And they committed to lending $5 billion in 2012 to small businesses. They didn't even hit $1 billion. And quite honestly, the answer when I asked them why is they said it costs us just as much time and money to process a $10,000 loan request as it does to process a $1 million+ loan request. And it doesn't make good business sense for us to be making these smaller investments. And so now these small businesses, they still need the capital. They're looking to alternative means, and that they're looking to the internet. And this is a market that Forrester, Bloomberg, the Wall Street Journal, and Fred Wilson have all quoted will be about $300 billion worth of transactions by 2015. Fred, tell me if I'm wrong on that.
I have no idea how big it's going to be.
That's going to be big. All right, thank you everyone so much.